Hello, and welcome to Dorks on Sports, a podcast about four dorks talking about sports. My name is Daniel. Joining me, as always, is Curtis Eastwood. Curtis, what's going on?
I'm pumped.
You're pumped. What are we pumped about?
What's that?
What are we pumped about?
I got the girls from The Shining right behind me.
Yeah.
Terrifying. I'm pumped about my Seahawks defense.
Are they meant to be Kobe Bryant and
Tariq Woolen?
Maybe they are.
Well, we're gonna get into that, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts. We got Alana over there. How's it going, Alana?
Doing all right. How's it going with you?
Oh, I'm host of podcast. I got my
Really?
Elysian pumpkin drink and larceny bourbon, and I'm ready to go.
Nice.
Yeah, Millie, what's
Yeah.
going on? How's it going? How'd your fantasy team do?
Oh man, Mike Williams. That's all I have to say about my fantasy team.
Ouch.
Yeah,
You're having a rough season.
I really am.
Yeah.
I lost both of my regular leagues. I ended up losing one I was supposed to lose, and then came from behind. I'm gonna win it. All I need is 10 points out of Mike Williams. No. That did not happen on Monday. And then in my other league, I just got outdone by a number of factors, and it is what it is. I survived my guillotine league. I'm just gonna dust myself off and see what I can do next week.
My condolences. I mean, this is the time in the fantasy season when you really start watching that waiver wire, right? I mean, this is where you're going to be looking for the diamonds in the rough, and those, maybe those backups who are playing behind a running back who probably has injury concerns, or an offensive line that's surprisingly playing very well. I think that's why I was always bad at fantasy. I was really bad at hitting in the waiver wire. I was always pretty good at drafting, but then as it happens, 4 of your best guys go down, and then you have to start digging into the waiver wire, and that's where I would lose.
It'll be an interesting week in general, I think, for a lot of folks, because both the Eagles and the Bills have buys, and those are a lot of the fantasy rosters right now.
Yeah, for sure.
This week's buys are gonna hit hard on some folks. So hopefully that will work out in my favor. I just hope that whoever has Travis Kelce, I don't have to play them on a week. Maybe they have a bye. I already had to face him once. It's just bad.
Yeah, I know. This is a good time to be a Seattle sports fan. I'm rocking. I got my Seahawks beanie. I've got my Mariners jersey and my Kraken scarf, because for 1 week in Seattle, all 3 major sports teams were playing, and that was just. I don't think there was a day I didn't watch sports. It was a good week. We got to talk Mariners, right? So the Mariners, they're out. They lose to the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros just have their number. But I'll tell you, the Mariners are closing that gap. And I know they didn't win a game in that series, right? Houston swept us in that playoff series. But we went the distance in each one of those games. I mean, the Mariners were probably leading more innings than the Astros did. The Astros just have the hitting to pull it off in the 8th and 9th innings.
Specific stat on that: they played 36 innings of baseball. The Mariners were leading or tied after 30 of the 36 innings.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, that's the kind of thing that, if you have another great offseason, the Seattle Mariners can catch up to the Houston Astros next season.
Like that.
Yeah, I think so. I also I was like, man, that's rotten that we only got 3 games against Houston. Oh, well, but really we got 4.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go 18 innings in a game. That was a wild game. I want to talk about that game. That was a long game. I think it broke the Seattle Mariners record for length of time, not necessarily how many innings it went. That was a gutsy game from both clubs, but the bullpen coming out, somebody was going to give up the home run, and that's what the game was going to come down to. But all the pitching being able to come out and play as well as they did. I mean, that bullpen rarely let anybody on base. It was just like rockets, across the base. And then it was like 1, 2, 3, and then they're gone. I have to give it up to Cal Raleigh for playing all 18 innings. I'm sure he's going to be icing that hand for the next 3 months. I mean, that's incredible. So it has me thinking, this is a really exciting time for the Seattle Mariners. I don't think this is the last time that the Seattle Mariners will be going to the postseason. And it feels like to me, this is one of those perennial playoff teams for the next 5-7 years. Alana, who's this team building around? Who's going to be the one that's going to take us to the top and put us over, and the guys that we're going to build around?
So I'm going to back up just a little bit. I was at the game on Saturday, and Felix surprised us. I didn't know he was going to be throwing the first pitch. I don't know if that was common knowledge, but that was the first moment of oh shit, this is real. They flashed the King logo up on the screen. Then it was everybody was and then he came out of the bullpen and greeted everybody along the way, and then he came out and threw a first pitch that was just it was 10 feet in front of the mound, and he just softly tossed it in, and I was like, that's right, Felix, you don't need to do this anymore.
That's right.
It was so obvious that he was thrilled to be there. That set the mood for the whole day, and it really set the mood for the whole day because there was no offense in that game, on either team
from either club.
From either club. And so when we're talking about was a little bit more about the experience of being there. It took me 2 full days to recover. Sunday I was okay. I was watching football. I was laying down. I let my body rest because I had been standing and sitting and standing and sitting and standing and sitting for the entire 18 innings. Anytime the Mariners were up to bat, I was on my feet. We all kind of took a break. We silently agreed that it was okay to sit down for the first 2 batters for pitches 1 and 2, strikes 1 and 2, when the Astros are up to bat. By the 18th inning, that was really important. So I rested my body on Monday, and then I really started to feel the effects of the smoke of being out in that that air for 9 hours. Because we got there at 11:30, we left at 7:30, and then we walked for an hour to catch the light rail. Because we didn't want to go the way everybody else was going, and my eyes are still feeling it. So it was a really unique and memorable experience for all those reasons. I've never high-fived more random strangers on punch outs at the end of innings. It was exceptional. It was tremendous. It was a marathon of a game. We all stayed after and chanted "Let's go Mariners." After the game.
That's awesome.
It felt really meaningful to do that. You could see the players who were standing outside of the dugout. I think I could see Kelnick and Haniger. I had decent seats. It is funny being in a baseball game when you're in the third base bleacher or third base line, and people are arguing balls and strikes, because it's you can't fucking tell. I'm just people are and I was how can you tell? You can't. Sorry. But back to your question. I think that this team is going to be built around the pitchers, because Luis Castillo's around here for 5 years. Logan Gilbert is a stud, and George Kirby, oh my fucking God, he was amazing.
What a game.
That was I don't remember how old he is. He's 21 or 22 or maybe 23, but that is a baby. He looks like a baby with his little stash, and he threw a brilliant game.
Absolutely.
And then, so we're going to build around them. We're going to build around Munoz, who has outstanding stuff. We're going to build around the Matt Brash, and maybe to an extent Matt Festa.
Matt Brash was also excellent in that game.
Absolutely, he totally was. Like, I honestly think we have 3 number ones. I think Brash is potentially, they could bring him back to a starter role.
Sure.
Munoz is working on 2 additional pitches. Can you imagine if he has 4 pitches out of the bullpen?
Yeah.
And they're all incredible. Like, he's the next Mariano Rivera if he can do that.
Sure, totally.
I know that Mariano Rivera had a cutter and that was it. But anyway, so that's kind of who we're building around on the pitching staff, and they're all incredible. I think that as everyday players, I think it's Cal Raleigh. I think it's potentially Kelnick. Potentially, I think it's Eugenio Suarez. I think we can keep him around for the next couple of years. He'll do tremendous in the leadership role. And I think it's Julio. I mean, obviously it's Julio. Julio is going to be here for his entire career. I think that a couple of things I wanted to say about Julio. I think his ceiling is top 10 of all time in the entire history of the game. I think that's his ceiling. And I think his floor is top 5 Dominican players of all time. I think he's that good. And I think his game is that well-rounded. The defensive plays he made on Saturday were unbelievable.
I can't remember what inning it was, like innings 15 or 14. That save he had where he just, like, it looked like every ounce of energy and strength that he could pull out of his body, he did to make sure. I mean, any other player, that was a sure hit, and they were going to be winning. Like, that was 2 guys going to base, and to be able to grab that was unbelievable.
Kelnick had another unbelievable catch 2 innings after that. Like, it was just as athletic, and it was just as crucial in the moment. So, like, Kelnick as a defensive player, like, he's all there. So if he can just get his bat working a little bit more, then I think, we've got, and then we just need to figure out what to do with that third outfield position, Aaron Judge, and just see what happens, in the offseason.
Aaron Judge.
Yeah, Aaron Judge. And maybe, like, I think that Trey Turner wants to move to second base, I've heard. So, like, maybe that's the direction we go. But beyond that, I just wanted to say one last thing, which is the way this team fought for every breath in the postseason. First by clobbering on Toronto, and then by losing in the bottom of the 9th, losing in the bottom of the 8th, and then losing in the bottom of the 18th. Effectively. Like, we're not that far off from Houston. From what it sounds like, we're going to lose Jesse Winker, and that's fine. Sounds like he didn't actually want to work to be here, which is too bad.
That's okay. It's not the Jesse Winker trade. It's the Eugenio Suarez trade.
It's the Eugenio Suarez trade. But that also opens up more room in the outfield, Aaron Judge. And so, but what I wanted to say about Julio is that we saw them work. We saw them get there. We saw them, like, almost crest, and we got swept. That was the closest sweep in the history of sweeps. But you could see Julio knows what's here. And he came out afterwards and he said something to the effect of, like, we'll be back, Seattle. And it reminded me of what Russell Wilson said immediately after that game they lost against the Falcons. And I think it was 2011 or
2012. It was his rookie season. Yeah.
And they went down, they took the lead, and then the Falcons came back and kicked the field goal and broke some hearts along the way. But Russell walked out with that ebullient positivity and just said, I have good feeling about this team. We're going to do something next year. And it reminded me so much of that. I don't think that Julio has the corniness that Russell has, but he has the positivity. I mean, his mantra being, I don't lose. I either win or I learn.
I
And
love
like
that.
approaching the game in that way with the joie de vivre that he has, and the just the playing the game like a kid, it's magic to watch. And I
It is.
fully believe him that we'll be back next year and maybe we'll win the division. And even if we don't, we'll give these Astros a run for their money. And it'll be glorious. And we are where they were in 2015. So
Right.
it's just steps at this point. So we're at the beginning of a journey. I'm thrilled to be on it.
I have loved everything I saw out of Julio. I mean, not just what he can do on the field, which is incredible, but the vulnerability that he has that you don't see very often in professional sports players of any game. He's giving himself to the game, and you can see that. It's like he's giving himself in service to the game. I can't remember where I read it. One of you might have been the ones to say it in the group chat, but Julio, even in the extra innings, was still coming out between innings, throwing balls with the players, because they don't need to warm up when it's inning 12, but because that's what you do. Because that's what you do for the fans, is that, you know, in between the innings, you throw a ball around to warm up. Like, it's stuff like that that I just think is really, really cool from Julio Rodriguez. Millie, so, you know, the season came to an end. What are some of your final thoughts? How did you feel? What was your experiences here?
You know, I was a little heartbroken, but the interesting thing is, in that epic game, I had hope, but you did sort of start to feel that, like, eventually someone's going to get the pitch, and it's 50-50 who it's going to be. But the odds are probably a little more in their favor just because of who they are.
Yeah.
The first game is the one that just broke me, because that one just hurt. That was, why are we doing this? What is happening? These choices and yada, yada, yada. And then you get to 18 innings of brilliant defensive baseball. I mean, this amazing pitching, and keeping freaking Alvarez, who, like, that was amazing.
I know.
Alvarez and Altuve were 0 for 15 in that game.
That's
I mean,
incredible.
that doesn't
15.
happen. That doesn't happen to them. I was just so impressed that all was forgiven. Like, it's okay. Like, I was like, it's okay. You kept it close every time. You look like a team who hasn't been here in a long time. You gave it up close to the end or in the last inning. Like, that sort of does have that feeling of, you know, that extra little bit. A lot of times that just comes with experience. It comes with being there and that sort of thing. I love this team. I love their energy. My baby Kellenic maybe didn't have quite the factor I wanted him to have, but man, those some of his plays, not just in the last game, but he contributed in every game, and he made a couple spectacular catches. So I'm really hoping that, I guess I'm cheering for him for next season. I hope he's on the team, and I hope he just keeps building and gets that confidence with hitting that he needs. Julio is magical. And he is the spark, and he is the glue, and he just smiles and shakes it off and looks at everybody like, isn't this fucking amazing that we're here and we get to do this? And I think he helps remind people of that. And between him and someone like Eugenio Suarez, it really is just about, like, let's keep the good vibes going. Like, let's remember how lucky we are to be here, how great it is to play this game. And, you know, sometimes you're going to play cheating Astros, and you're just going to have to, you know, just do your best and play your best ball. And we didn't win the end. I was really sad we didn't get that game 4, because I think you all know I had tickets. I was going to go with my dad, my husband. I wanted that experience so bad, and I didn't get it. And I'm super sad about that, but we'll just have to make it happen next year. You know, it's It really is. We talked about this last time, but this is what we asked for.
Mhm.
We asked for this. We asked for the heartbreak because only one team is ultimately going to win the whole thing, which means it's going to get harder and harder to accept when that's not your team, when you keep getting so close. But
Mhm.
we're getting closer, and the movement forward and the wins and just believing in this team has been fun. It's fun to be a Mariners fan. It's not, there are other fandoms where it's this obligation or it's this anger that you hold against other people. And in a very typical Seattle way, with the Mariners, it's fun to be a Mariners fan. It's fun to be a Seahawks fan. Like it's about us and our fun and a lot less about what everybody else is doing. And it's something I like about our fandom.
That said, did the "You're a cheater" chants come through on the broadcast whenever Altuve and Bregman came up?
I did not know what they were chanting. No.
Okay. It was loudly "You're a cheater" every single at bat for those two players.
I love it. When the opening game was against the Astros, and that chant was going up on those two guys too.
Oh, real quick, Kirby is 24.
Okay, thank you.
That's still that very young.
Yeah.
This team reminds me a lot of that 2012 Seahawks team. Not only, it's a team built around a bunch of young upstarts, but the way the fans are connecting to the team and the chemistry the team has with each other, leaning on each other. But the way the fans are relating to that team reminds me a lot of that Legion of Boom era Seahawks, where you're really connecting to these guys. Who everybody is, what their personality is, you're seeing yourself in some of these people. I think that kind of thing is a recipe for a championship team. What do you think, Curtis?
Yes, absolutely. Jerry Dipoto has successfully built a playoff contending team. They've been a playoff contending team for the last two seasons. Last season, they failed to get in at the end, but they were in contention for the playoffs. Being a playoff contending team is what you want. And there's been times over the last 21 years where Seattle has flirted with playoff contention, but they haven't done it in a consistent season to season manner. And what Dipoto has done with that roster and what Scott Service has managed is a playoff contending team for 2 years in a row. And we got in and we won a series, and we lost a series in which the immediate box score narrative will be that we got swept by a stronger division opponent. But the run differential between these teams were super tight.
Yeah.
Seattle went toe to toe. I agree with Millie that, that first game in Houston was a bummer because I think many of us felt that that game was in the bag, and it wasn't. But
I kind of feel like, if that game was played in Seattle, we probably would have won it.
You probably, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why you want that home field advantage.
And so I guess where I'm kind of going with this is we've already gotten to the point where we can say we're a playoff contender. And so we're a good team, we're a good B level, B+ team, but let's get to an A team. Let's get to a title team. And so this
Tree Turner,
where I say, like, let's not be the 2012 Seahawks. Let's be the 2013 Seahawks with this team. And let's go out.
That's what we need to do, right?
Let's go out and let's have an aggressive
push in free agency.
Bring in Ohtani, and add to the pitching staff.
Somebody recommended trading Winker and Ray for Ohtani, and I was like, yes, please.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would take that trade, but I would.
But yeah, I mean, I was just sort of looking online at what, the free agents were and the pitchers and stuff like that. Get a legitimate pitcher, get a legitimate left-handed pitcher, get a legitimate bat.
Yeah.
Do those two things.
And when you have a team like this, this is the kind of young upstart team that's proved themselves now in the playoffs. This is the team that will attract those free agent players.
Yeah.
But
it's because they like to work. It's because they like to work and they love each other they'll attract it. I mean, like, that's why Jesse Winker didn't fit in, is that he wasn't willing to put in the work that Mitch Haniger, that Julio, that Eugenio did. Eugenio came over and was like, the work that Perry Hill puts us through on a day-to-day basis is unlike anything I've ever been through in the majors, and I love it. Yeah. And it's like, so like, let us be known for that. Let us be known for the fact that you come here, you will do fucking drills every single day, and we want you here if you want to do that.
Here's the reason why I think Julio is going to be the greatest Mariner of all time. I have heard it described on sports radio locally here by some Major League Baseball insider, that he has the natural godly given talent of Ken Griffey Jr., but he has the clubhouse work ethic of Edgar Martinez. So you've got a guy with like freakish natural athletic ability to smack the ball around and make plays in the outfield, and you've got a guy who has a tremendous work ethic. Yeah, Edgar wasn't the greatest athlete on the planet, but he nobody worked harder in that clubhouse than Edgar Martinez.
Well, I mean, that's what makes a ball player one of the greatest of all time. Yeah. It's when you tie that natural ability to an insane way. I mean, Jerry Rice, that's Jerry Rice, it's really exciting.
There's a reason why they locked him into a contract that long and that extensive, is because they know what they've got on their hands with that kid. And he's gonna be so go out and just be aggressive, and don't rest on laurels, thinking that you've got it in-house. Go out and be like the Los Angeles Rams for the last few years, and just go crazy.
Well, and he's proven that he might do that, because he Dipoto is known for his trades and his like up and down signings in the exact same way that John Schneider is in the Seahawks. So he wants to find the right fit for this program. And there's so many similarities between Mariners now and Seahawks from 2012. It's
absolutely. And trading for Castillo, I think, is the harbinger of what we're going to see in free agency. I think that was the sign that Dipoto goes, oh, the window is now open. This is the time to go crazy. This is the time to get aggressive. It's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to next season. Let's talk about some Seahawks. The Seahawks played a game on Sunday, a game I thought it was a very fun game. I actually, every game the Seahawks have played this season, I think has been a blast to watch, win or lose. I'm having a lot of fun watching these guys. Seahawks played division rival Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals come to town. These two teams always play each other weird. This game was no exception to that. This was a low scoring slobber knocker. Weirdly, though the two teams are known for their offenses, this was kind of a defensive game. One thing I want to point out, and then I'm gonna give it up to you guys. I was watching that offense, and so the narrative has been the Seahawks offense is playing like one of the best offenses in the league right now. Geno Smith is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And then they don't put up a ton of points. They get one touchdown and a bunch of field goals. And every yard they got, they had to work for. And I think that was the best sign of what's that offensive performance was the best sign of what's to come, because nothing came easy. It was like guys in your face, receivers covered all over the place. And this is something we haven't seen in years. The quarterback took what the defense was giving him. And so clearly the Cardinals' plan was lock up Metcalf and lock up Tyler Lockett and don't give him anything. And Geno Smith said, okay, I'll go to my 3 and 4. And D. Eskridge started getting some passes, and Marquise Goodwin started getting some passes. And, the tight end started getting in the game. And then DK Metcalf starts getting some passes in the third quarter, and Tyler Lockett starts getting some passes because it opened it up for him. They moved the ball well. They weren't able to finish a lot. The Seahawks have been pretty good in the red zone. They weren't able to finish, but they were able to move the ball a lot. And let's talk about Kenneth Walker. Like the rookie Kenneth Walker taking over the starting role and showing the world why Seattle drafted him where he did. When that guy figures it out, like he made a ton of rookie mistakes in that game, but he still ran about 100 yards. Like he had the most missed tackles of all running backs that Sunday. There's something like he's had the ball 44 times and he's made 22 guys miss. That's incredible. Like that is just incredible. So I don't know. Geno didn't have his best game, and it was still pretty good. And that offense, they're cooking up something really, really nice. But Curtis, I think the story of that game was the Seahawks defense finally maybe figuring it out a little bit. What did you see?
Yeah, I was there. I was there up in the nosebleeders, and I could get a good bird's eye view of it all. Seattle finally did with the defense what I was hoping they were going to do, and what I was sort of anticipating would happen sooner rather than now. But I kept on feeling like they're going to tweak this thing. They're going to tweak this thing, and what they did, they got away from the more passive two gap sort of. Not really even attacking at the line of scrimmage, but just kind of holding on the blockers and sort of reading and reacting thing that puts the defensive lineman in more of a passive position against, offensive linemen that are 300 plus pounds. And so what they finally did is they went back to Carroll's DNA of attacking the gaps. And, they've really only got maybe like 1 or 2 guys on that defensive line that can two gap in a 3-4 looking sort of thing. And that's Al Woods and Brian Monet. But Poona Ford, Shelby Harris, and Quentin Jefferson are all they're more athletic, quicker, like 3-4, 4-3 type of defensive tackles that need to shoot through gaps quick. And so, yeah, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of quick penetration, and I think it really stymied Arizona's ground game. Their only ground game was the quarterback. Pretty much. And they also, like, the 3 defensive tackles got sacks because they were containing Murray well, and they were keeping him in the pocket. And the way you play Murray is the same way you play Russell Wilson. You don't let him get outside. You make him be a pocket passer, and then you get that quick penetration inside. And it was a really cool thing to watch, to see that adjustment. And then on how like everything marries together with a defense, it was also the coverage looked a lot better. Murray wasn't able to get to the outsides quite so much, and he had to throw more inside. And when eventually through the course of the game, when the passes are going inside, you can anticipate that better. And so that's sort of like, to me, this is what I would say is the Tariq Woolen effect, because from my observation, it felt to me that Murray was not trusting going to that area of the field that Woolen was at. He was going other places, and where he was going to oftentimes he was trying to pick on Cody Bryant. And what was Cody Bryant starting to do is he was starting to anticipate that, and he was defending the passes and the balls, like he was knocking them down. He's
really good at that,
guys. And so that now that's starting to come alive. And I think through the progression of the season, I really feel like this defense is going to start to make a turn for the better. It's starting to become a more respectable unit because they're going to play more aggressively up front. And you've got a young, freakishly talented cornerback
who's leading the league in interceptions right now, I might add.
He has 4 interceptions in the last 4 games, and it was announced at the game the last time a rookie cornerback did that in the league, it was Richard Sherman.
And he's still
we've got Richard Sherman 2.0, but he's like a taller, faster version of Richard Sherman. Like he's in the 99th percentile of speed, length, explosion, and he isn't even figuring out the position yet. Eventually he's going to really know how to play NFL cornerback. When that happens, that's kind of nuts.
That pass that he intercepted that Murray threw to him was such a vintage Richard Sherman interception. It's what quarterbacks did to Richard Sherman in his first 3 years in the league before they stopped doing it, which is just kind of like that 9-ball fade sort of a pass down the sideline. That was like automatic interception for Richard Sherman. And to see Tariq Woolen just look exactly like Richard Sherman was when he saw that ball coming his way, and then just sit, anticipate, wait with patience for that ball to come and then snatch it right out of the air was really, really, really fun to watch.
Yeah,
best part about him is what Dick said about him when he was
looking like Calvin Johnson. It's it's kind of like when you see it live at the game, it's like something out of a Madden game. It's like a made up character, fictitious character that you drafted in Madden in season 2 or 3 of your league that you're playing in.
Yeah,
what Dick said about him was great when he said that he doesn't have a fucking clue what he's doing out there. And you just ask him what's going on and he just looks back and gives you a thumbs up. And it's just like he is surviving on talent alone.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it. Richard Sherman is fired up about him. Richard Sherman's fired up about that defense in general. Yeah. I think it's a really good sign of the defense. I don't think it is an anomaly, because this is what you get with a bunch of young guys who are learning the game as they go, right? As the season progresses, they're learning the game and they're learning their techniques and they're getting better. And we're seeing that now. I think this defense is only going to trend up and up and up. I think it's really exciting.
Exactly what you want to see when you hear oh, okay, well, now we need to move into a rebuilding phase, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean. And what you get is a class of young players, especially on the defense, who are giving you that spark and are giving you that feeling that you had a decade ago. We're like, hey, oh, this is fun. And they're having fun. I mean, I know it's like my theme for the pod today, but if you're enjoying the people you are working with and playing with, and they're, especially for these athletes where they're challenging each other, it raises things to another level. And I think we all know that is one of the things that Pete Carroll teams are really good at, right? Is creating that culture. And now we have these minds on defense that are feeding into it. And it sounds like listening too, from what I understand with the defense, that there were some conversations and there was actual listening and adjusting to strengths that happened instead of continuing to try to force this group into setups that weren't really working for them. So I think that's super fun to see. I think Kobe Bryant and Tariq Woolen are just dynamite. And I really
with his
enjoy
4
having
interceptions and Kobe with 4 forced fumbles.
That is so freakish. Kobe
Right.
Bryant in 4 games has 4 forced fumbles.
Awesome.
And for the first time, I feel like in 6 games, I was also like, Puna, there you are.
Yeah.
Like, that was happening as well.
Turn Puna loose.
True. I want to turn to the offense for a minute though, and say, I mean, are you aware who our number 1 pass catcher actually was in that game?
Was it Noah?
It was Noah Fant. Like,
Nice.
I mean, it is that pivot that you need of, if they're going to shut down your receivers, then you're going to go to your tight ends, and then you're going to see if you can trust these, you can trust Diaz Scridge to really start catching some passes. But uncharacteristic to me game for my pocket locket, because I'm pretty sure I saw an actual drop that did not get a pass interference call. It is a unicorn, but I do believe it happened. He was targeted 5 times, but only had 2 catches for 17 yards. It was that was a hard.
The Cardinals are really good
fans.
about taking the guys away that they want to take away.
Yeah.
Like that is their strength as a defense.
They do this thing when you see it at the stadium and you see how that thing, it looks different from the bird's eye view of it. They crowd the line of scrimmage with like 8 or 9 guys out of the 11 defenders, and they, in a split second, when that ball's hiked, they make you have to decide where that blitz, like they're going to send pressure, but you have no idea where that pressure is coming. And so really, like, going back to, Gino's production in that game, it wasn't like it's been the last 3 weeks in terms of the 300 yards and the multiple touchdowns, but he was doing a really good job.
I think so too.
Distributing the ball and making quick decisions when he had to, against like pressures that I think would have, like, I think if this was Russell Wilson,
He would have been sunk.
it would have been
absolutely.
it would have been an ugly game to watch.
Well, you saw that pass he missed of the open Denver Bronco right in front
that
of
was
him.
rough.
Like that's where Gino kind of had to live in this game. So like seeing that contrast of strengths and Gino's quick decision making as opposed to selling out always for the long ball. That Russ does, like we genuinely would not have won this game with Russell, which is not selling out on Russell so much as it is acknowledging Gino's strengths in this particular game plan.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think if it was Russell Wilson, I know exactly how this game would have gone. Yeah. I mean, how sloppy and ugly it would have looked. It would have been a lot of 3 and outs.
A lot of
like strip sacks or sacks, like 12 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And the final score would have ended up being something like 12-6.
Yeah.
I remember Millie saying at one point last offseason that she just wanted a game manager. Like, can we have a good game manager? Geno Smith, like, game managed that game really well.
Yeah.
Like he
turnovers
Alex
from
Smith that thing. Like
and move the ball. It's like, even if you're not getting touchdowns, at least you're keeping it out of the other team's hands, and you're able to like go the distance and take a couple shots at that end zone. And hey, Jason Myers, kicking however many field goals you had, good job. He had a good game. No, it was really exciting for me to watch because in the past few seasons there have been like 2, 3, 4 games just like that in each season, and they were really painful to watch. And I didn't feel like this was painful to watch. I just, it was a nice defensive slobber knocker that I felt the Seahawks were in control of the entire game.
Mhm.
I was never worried that they were going to lose that game. I knew they were going to win it. It just felt like it.
The blocked punt in the end zone thing freaked me out at that.
It did. Well, that's the other thing is that without that fluky thing, the Seahawks end up winning 19-3.
19-3. Yeah, it would have been a total. It would have been a total blowout.
That would have been a blowout. Yeah. So really good stuff. So I don't know, Millie, how'd we do on the predictions?
Well, I did pick the Cardinals just to be a contrarian, which of course now I seriously regret because you all picked the Seahawks to win. Absolutely nobody was anywhere close to the score because we all thought that this would be a high scoring affair. So we're all really lucky that we aren't actual money gamblers, at least to my knowledge, on this pod, because we all would have bet the over.
I'm way too much of a homer to gamble.
Same.
Yeah. So congratulations to all of you.
So we should do the next game, yeah?
I think we should do the next game. So the Seahawks are going to
Chargers.
be traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers, who had one of those ugly games we were talking about against Russell Wilson and the Broncos. That game, the way Russell Wilson played in that game is exactly how he would have played in this game against the Cardinals.
Mhm. Same type of defense.
Yeah. It is. So going to Los Angeles, playing the Chargers. The Chargers are 4-2. I don't know if they're that good. Like, are the Chargers that good? I don't
Watching
know.
the end of that game,
Yeah.
Brandon Staley's a joke. The way that both head coaches game managed that game, it was terrible. Clock management
Yeah.
on both
that's-
teams. Terrible play calling.
He
Just
needs,
across
he
the
needs
board.
to fire his friend from college that's up in the booth telling him to go for it on 4th and 2.
Yeah.
Those are horrible
Like-
decisions. Just horrible decisions.
Yeah.
I can't really get a beat on this game. I've been thinking about it all day. I don't think the Chargers are as good as their record. I think the Seahawks are better than their record. In terms of overall DVOA, by the way, Seahawks number 9. Seahawks are in the top 10.
Mhm.
Which is pretty incredible. I think the Chargers offensive line is quietly bad. Like, I don't think
Yeah, they've lost their starting left tackle and their starting center.
they get a lot of pressure, and the run game sucks. Like, the run game, they can't get going. So when I take that into consideration, and the fact that I think this Waldron Rams offense matches up really, really well against the Chargers defense, this is what my prediction is going to be. I think the Seahawks are running away with it. I think it's going to be 28-17. I think it's going to be. I think the Seahawks are going to really take it. I think also, I think Boye Mafe is going to have a breakout game.
Nice.
Mm.
He's due. He's been playing the run really well. That was
He
the other
has.
thing I was going to add to the game. The way in which they're figuring out the rotation between Boye Mafe and Darrell Taylor is really cool. Like
Darren Taylor played really
on
well
the
last week.
rundowns. Taylor's coming in on 3rd downs to rush passer, and that's
Yeah.
nice.
It's good stuff.
I just looked at this because it was bugging me. The Ringer has the Broncos ranked 15th in the NFL and the Seahawks ranked 20th. I just
that should be
combination.
reversed.
Yeah. I was like, A, we beat them. B, they look like shit.
They're
B,
horrible.
we don't. So like, and I think that there's going to be a little fire from that. Like, players see
Yeah.
that, and I know we're not playing the Broncos. I think it's going to be Hawks 31, Chargers 24, because there's no home field advantage in that stadium.
There's
for
not.
that.
In fact,
There'll be
I
more
actually
Seahawks fans.
when I was listening to Bill Simmons' podcast, he was talking about, he was like, there's actually a lot of Seahawks fans here in LA that will go to this game. He was like, I think this might be more of a Seahawks. I think this more might be a Seattle home game. Yeah, there are no Chargers fans there.
No.
Millie, what do you think?
All right, I'll go. I think that I think Keenan Allen is coming back. I think that Surtain, which is why Mike Williams couldn't get any fantasy points for me, is really, really good.
He is.
I think he's going to take DK out of the game.
Surtain's on Denver, though.
God damn it. Right. That's why Mike Williams couldn't score. Yep. Whoopsie. Oh, good. So we don't have to deal with Surtain. I switched him over to the Chargers in my brain. It makes me really happy. That makes me.
I think the Chargers would like to have him on their team too.
I think anybody would.
Right. Okay, but they do get Keenan Allen.
Surtain is really good. Like maybe the top in the league.
Yeah. No, he's probably the only reason why they're doing as well as they are, is because he takes away a major receiver in every game that they play. But that is not the team we're talking about. We are talking about the Chargers. And I'm stalling because I was taking the wrong player into account. Gosh, I am, as usual. I'm very, very torn. I don't think it's going to be the high scoring affair. I think it's going to be closer to a 21-23 game. I was going to pick the Chargers, but screw it. I'm going to go Hawks. 23-21 Hawks.
Go Hawks. Curtis, what do you think?
I'm gonna say 2013 Seahawks. I think that we get the Chargers. Here's what I think is going to happen. The Chargers just played a tough game on Monday Night Football against one of the best defenses in the league.
Yeah, they're legit.
I think offensively, even with Keenan Allen back, that offensive line is in trouble.
Mhm.
And they can't run the ball very well. And they're a fairly one-dimensional team. And so,
by the way, Herbert, like Russ, just wants to go downtown. Like when he gets in trouble.
Yeah, he's a vertical thrower. And I think that I'm gonna say that Seattle has found a new spark on its defense. I think they're gonna be aggressive up front again. And I think that Herbert is uber talented enough and young enough to think that he can test Woolen's side of the field. And I think I actually think Seattle is going to get a couple INTs against Herbert.
You think Woolen's going to get two?
Huh?
I think
Woolen could get 2 picks in this game. I think
that would be absolutely incredible.
I think I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be, because Kobe's been close on a few too. And I still think that Quandre
Kobe's
Diggs
been close. Oh man, he's
so
due.
I think it's going to be multiple interceptions for the Seahawks defense, and I think it's going to be a little bit more lower scoring again for the offense, because I think what Carroll is going to do is he already talked about, like, just wanting Geno to get the ball off quick. I think Geno's just going to take what's there.
Yeah.
And, and I think that because the Chargers play a similar sort of aggressive style of blitzing and stuff like that that I think that, I think that their game plan is going to be very similar. They're going to try and take DK out of it, and they're going to try and take Tyler out of it. And so, I think Geno's just going to go to the hot reads, and get that ball off quick. And it's probably going to be a lot of passes to the tight ends and D. Eskridge and Marquise Goodwin, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Kenneth Walker gets like a pass catching touchdown, like a catch and run sort of thing like that.
I think he would. I want him to get. I think he would be really, really good in the pass game. I don't know what he's like as a pass catcher, but he definitely has the physical tools to just tear it up, LaDainian Tomlinson style in the pass game.
I think if Wallen gets 2, then that cements him as rookie of the year.
As rookie, absolutely, defensive rookie of the year, 100%. He would have 6 interceptions, and it wouldn't even be halfway
for
through
7 games.
7 games.
That would be insane.
Dan,
And I
what
just
is-
think, I think Herbert's got a little bit too much of that playmaker sort of mentality in him and stuff. And Seattle's going to look to take advantage of that.
I also think their coach isn't very good, and when you get a coach like Pete Carroll versus somebody like that,
What were you saying, Millie?
Millie?
I was just going to ask what your actual prediction was. I didn't catch it. If you
28-17.
2013.
No, I got yours, Curtis. Dan, it was 28-17.
28-17.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Hawks.
You and I are fairly aligned on that, Dan.
Yeah. I think that I just don't think it's going to be close. I think this offense, that Waldron Rams offense matches up really well against that defense. I think that he doesn't have to chuck it deep because they're just going to find holes in the zone all over the intermediate middle. And Gino's just going to hit them. And, it'll be like they'll go for the blitzes, but Waldron's going to dial up, a quick slant, right? Boom. He's just going to hit him. That's what I think. Should we dork out about some stuff?
Sure.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Let's dork out. Who wants to start? Millie, you want to dork out?
Absolutely. I do want to dork out. I want to follow through on my promise of watching the Midnight Club, which I did.
How'd it
I'm
go?
gonna leave a long pause there. Here's the thing. Because I just looked to see a couple things about how this is described, right? And let's see, it's described as horror fiction. It is described as at a manor with mysterious history. 8 members of the Midnight Club meet each other each night at midnight to tell sinister stories and look for signs of the supernatural from beyond. That is not what this is. This is not a Halloween series. Mike Flanagan has now gone even further with trying to convince people what horror is. We all know how I felt about the last one. The actual plot of this story is that a group of 8 young people with terminal illnesses meet at midnight every night to tell stories, to create what they refer to as ghosts, with the idea that would somehow help them send a sign when they die to the rest of the group that there is something more beyond death. This show is sad. This show is emotional. It is a meditation on death that I actually think is interesting and beautiful in a lot of places. Some of the stories they tell, because each episode has a story within it, some of the stories they tell are great. The episode where one character, it's what was supposed to be his death day, and he's made it to his death day and he's still very much alive. That episode was a standout episode for me. The acting is fantastic. There is this subplot about this house is on this land, and there's this neighbor who has a wellness company, and she seems to know an awful lot about the house and its history, and there's some kind of cult. This is all sort of a subplot to this main plot of these kids, and the one who's kind of searching for a cure or something natural that might stave off death and her cancer. But it is, just take it the fuck out of October. Don't make it part of my must-see scary
Spooky season.
I was going to say,
Halloween.
all of that
Yeah.
sounds great, but get it the fuck out of my Halloween.
Yes, it was the same thing with stupid vampire mass bullshit Christ story last year.
Yeah,
Give me
I'm
that
with
at
you.
Easter.
No,
Like,
get it out.
This doesn't belong in October.
I don't want emotional shit in my Halloween. Give me some spooky scaries.
Yeah.
Right there. right
That's
behind me.
right. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Curtis is pointing
I
at the.
wholeheartedly
fuckers.
disagree with all of you on that. Like, give me the emotional in October. Fuck the spooky scary. It's one thing I
Boo.
don't like.
Well-
It's not for me.
Well, this is
Boo. Well,
Well, then you might
you have
wanna
a very
watch
good
The Midnight
recommendation.
Club. I just to warn you, because they do try to set it up like it's something else. The very first episode, the very first story, and this was done on purpose, has broken the record for jump scares. And the whole point of it is, as this person is telling a story, every time they turn around, this ghost is there. And so when they're telling the story, it's 22 jump scares within like 8 minutes, and it doesn't
No, thank
even
you.
jump scare.
Jump scares? No, I don't.
But it doesn't even make you do it, because the whole point was, like, I guess, he doesn't think jump scares are, important for horror and yada, yada, yada. Who gives a shit, Mike Flanagan. I will just recommend once again, though, The Haunting of Hill House, his first
really good.
Netflix series, is a work of art. Go
Mhm.
back and watch that.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
when you're in the mood for a meditation on death with young people, by all means watch The Midnight Club. There's a lot going for it, and don't expect any resolution about the cult and all the other bullshit, because you're not going to get it.
Can I just say, like everything you're describing there, the past
sandpaper to the
year or
eyeball.
two, they've been, these marketing companies have been marketing these movies as like I'm a horror fan, and they've been marketing these movies as like horror movies. And then I go in, I see this especially in A24 flicks, and I love A24 and I love horror movies, and A24 does great horror movies. And then I go to see these movies, and it's not really a horror movie. It's like a meditation about something. And in its own right, it's a really great movie. But I'm mad because it's not the movie I went to see. It's like, if I had known it was about something else, I would have taken in this flick and not had these expectations that I was coming into like a cool horror movie. So stop it, marketing people. You're just making people upset.
Do you get into Hallmark Christmas movies because it's the reason for the season, Amelia, or is it specifically the Halloween of it all?
Oh, I love the Hallmark
Okay.
Christmas movies too. I love to pick them apart. I love them for what they are. I love that you can stick them on in the background while you go bake cookies in the kitchen. Like, I love their cookie cutter
Party movie to go fart around.
Exactly. That is not what I want out of my Halloween season.
There's something really great about like a bad movie that knows it's bad. Like, there's just something charming about it. Like part of the fun is watching it because it's bad and that it knows it's bad.
The problem I have with B movies, though, is most B movies don't know they're bad.
That's right.
And then like The Room doesn't know it's bad.
Yeah,
And
I would say like
it's like, get that
that's
away
why
from
those
me.
Evil Dead movies are great. Like those Bruce
Yes.
Campbell movies are great because they know exactly what they are.
Mhm.
Right. But when you watch the Princess Switch 1, 2, and 3, they know exactly what they are, and they are delightful.
We should dork out on some Hallmark movies.
you will.
No, I think by all means, please bring those
I think
to
we
us.
should.
I'll go ahead and go real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
I just wanted to shout out that it's not often that my asks of the universe are granted to me. And I've been asking the universe to please have John Oliver make an episode that is centered around trans rights. And he did that this week. And then bonus, Jon Stewart also did that last week.
Buddy.
Yeah, and I don't know that they talk to each other because they both took very different tacks. And part of that is the nature of the shows that they're on. But the Jon Stewart one, which is on Apple, it's called The Problem with Jon Stewart, if you didn't know. His show is structured as a three-act structure where he talks and introduces the topic, has a little interlude. He sits down with experts about the topic, and then has a little interlude, and then he has an interview with someone. And so in the context of the first bit, it was like, why do people have a problem with this? And he explained the idea of gender identity in a non-trans way about various characters and people who are represented on TV. And it was hilarious. It was like, I can't remember the exact details because it's been about 2 weeks, but he had, you know, the feminist of femme people over here as described by people on Fox News, and then just ran the gamut to the maskest of masked people over here. And each of those people represented a different gender because of how they identify and move through the world and perform gender. And it was just a really nice way to handle that. And then in the segment where he was interviewing people, where he had panel, he had 2 parents of trans kids. He had a very well-known trans attorney who works for the HRC committee, or the HRC, and then a doctor who is prescribing doctor to support trans kids or trans people. And that turned to be about quite a bit about trans kids, especially. And then he interviewed the Arkansas Attorney General and put on a master class on how to interview these right-wing nut jobs who are presenting their view of reality as fact without any scientific support. She said something to the effect of 98% of kids who experience gender dysmorphia or gender identity disorder, or what, I can't remember what terminology she used, expressed later in life that they were wrong. And Jon Stewart said, oh, 98%, that's an incredibly made up statistic. And just called her on her bullshit right in that moment, and did that repeatedly throughout. He asked, who are these doctors that are giving these different this advice that's different from the American Association of Pediatric Doctors or whatever, and the various mental health organizations that support intervening with kids who identify as trans when they're young. And it was wonderful. And then a week and a half later or whatever, John Oliver comes out and does his entire second act about trans rights. And there's some focus, of course, on trans kids, because that's the primary area where we are being attacked and where we are being shown the door effectively. But it was really a lot more about trans people in sports and trans people moving through the world. And he showed a footage of somebody interviewing a queer person in the 1950s. It was Mike Wallace, or 1960s, and they had the person hide behind the plant to protect his anonymity. And so, like, it was remarkable to see these 2 straight, cis, white Gen X men devote the vast majority of their time on screen to talking about this issue. That hasn't happened before. We don't have people who are not a part of this community or not adjacent to this community come out on national media and say trans lives matter. And so I feel like it was a watershed moment for me, because I respect both of them. And I had questions about Jon Stewart because of how he defended Dave Chappelle, but this was so well put together, and it represented so much of what needs to be talked about and how the media needs to talk about it, that I think it's remarkable. And I would highly recommend watching both pieces of materials. So, and then for fun, I'm watching The Vow on HBO Max, which is part 2. It's about Nexium. It's a whole cult thing, and it's a documentary, and it's like, fuck yeah, please more. That's there.
I'm the thing I'm dorking out about this week is kind of adjacent to what you're dorking out about, Alana. I've been reading a book called The Will to Change: Men, Masculinity, and Love by feminist author Bell Hooks. It is a book, a feminist book written for men about the patriarchy and the trauma that our, white capitalist dominant patriarchal culture effects on the men living in the culture. And what it sets out to do is redefine masculinity, and not just say like you're bad for, because you're a man, but saying you're good because you're a man. You've just learned some really bad things through no fault of your own, but from the culture that we've been living in. And it's I've gone on a very personal journey reading this book. I've gone on a personal journey for the last probably 2 or 3 years, all based around these ideas. And I recommend it to everybody, no matter who your gender is. It's written for men, but it really talks about the trauma of patriarchy in general. It has a lot of sensitivity and empathy that I think if you don't identify as a man, right, in this patriarchal society, you can come to understand where men come from and these ideas and traumas that have been forced onto them. I hope everybody reads it. I think everybody needs to read it. So that's what I've been doing. And then for fun, I've been watching Atlanta. That's in its final season. And it's one of my favorite shows of all time. And I think it's brilliant. And this season does not hold back. I think Donald Glover is just absolutely brilliant. And I can't wait to see the next thing that he does. Curtis, what are you dorking out about?
I got through the Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
How
was it?
That last episode that closed out season 1, there was a huge reveal of plot that I did not see coming at all, and I think the production did a fantastic job of keeping that in the little genie bottle and then releasing on it. And so now I got to go back and watch the whole thing all over again to like see to kind of follow like, okay, how did that, like, what were
true dork fashion.
Stuff. Yeah. And it's true dork fashion too, because now like I've said before, I'm not a Tolkien guy, but this show has sort of like gotten me like all into, and now I gotta now I want to go back and watch the trilogy films from like the early 2000s with Viggo Mortensen.
That's the actor that sticks out.
I know, I love that Viggo Mortensen.
I like Viggo. Viggo's great.
I think Viggo's great. I'm just saying I would with Elijah Wood or
Ian McKellen.
Or Ian McKellen. Yeah.
Ian McKellen's terrific. Yeah, no.
Orlando Bloom.
I knew of those actors while that film was, but Viggo came out of nowhere for me when that movie came out. And I was just like, who's this guy?
He's fantastic.
So, yeah. And anything else I wanted to say? Last week's episode, I've been following the Star Wars Andor film television show.
Andor.
I got like
Andor, everybody loves
Andor. Last episode of Andor I really liked. It's been a little bit of a slow process for me getting it. It's kind of a slow burning thing. It's like a Star Wars show, but it has like in terms of tone, it feels more like a Blade Runner type thing.
Interesting.
Star Wars for adults is how I've heard it described.
Oh, I
okay. Star Wars for people who don't like space wizards, I think would be another way I'd describe it. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, if you're listening to this podcast and you like it, you should hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to it, Spotify or Apple or whatever it is. Also, we're on YouTube. You can see all our pretty faces and our little backgrounds and our little costumes.
Very
While you're at it, you should check out Curtis's blog, 12life.com. He's always got some really great insights on there. I like reading it every week. Once again, my name is Daniel. For Alana, Millie, Curtis, the rest of the 12s, saying goodbye and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.